Hello, this is Mr. Vaughn with video lesson 3.8, dividing decimals by decimals. So if you need some additional help with this, you can look in the workbook packet, pages 240 and 241. It will give you more examples and different directions on how to do this. So let's go ahead and get started. You're going to use these notes, use this process if you have a decimal in the divisor. And that is the number that's on the outside of the house in division. So that would be like this number right here, 0.9. Let's do a quick review, though. You have been learning how to do a lot of different operations with numbers with decimals, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So if you remember from the last lesson, if you it had numbers in the dividend, that's the number inside of the house. No decimal out here. And what you did in that situation, we just brought it straight up. So if the number on the outside of the house is a whole number, has no decimals, then you can just bring that decimal straight up. This process is what you do if there is a decimal on the outside of the house. Zoom in here a little bit more, see if you can make that a little bit bigger. So step one, make the divisor into a whole number. So this is 0.9, and we need to move it over one space to get that decimal point behind the 9. That would be making it into a whole number. Make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal to the right. So step number 2, move the decimal in the dividend, that's the inside the house, over the same number of times. Same number of times. So on the outside of the house, we moved it over one time. Inside the house, we're going to move it over one time. And then we're going to have it be at 17.1. And then you do it, divide like the previous lessons, just like you did before. You just move the decimal straight up and divide from there. Number 1 is that same example. So let's go ahead and do that one together, and then you should pause the video and do number 2 on your own. So 1 and 71/100ths divided by 9/10. I'm going to turn my paper this way to make sure I have plenty of room to do the division. Remember, when division problems are written out like this horizontally, it's that first number that it goes on the inside of the house. So we are dividing 1.71 by 0.9. All right, so now that we've got the problem set up, we notice there's a decimal out here, which is not allowed. We've got to turn the 0.9 into a whole number. So we move that, or we do that by moving it one place to the right, one place to the right, and then one place to the right inside the house, the same number of places. Now we've got the decimal there, and we can move it straight up. Some people at this point don't like all the decimals and the arrows and stuff like that. You can rewrite it like that if you'd like to. So what we did here, just so you know for background, is multiplied this by 10. 0.9 times 10 equals 9. And we did 1.71 times 10, which equals 17.1. So now we've got a division problem, which you guys are familiar with from the last lesson. We just move it straight up, and then we start dividing, just like 9 divided into 171. Ignore that decimal. So 9 into 17 goes one time. 1 times 9 is 9. Then we subtract. That's a 16. Or 6, and then we bring down the 1. It's a 61. Wait a second. That's not 6. It's 81. And then we have 9 into 81. That is a 9. Remember, we're keeping our columns nice and straight so we don't get the numbers mixed up when we're bringing them up and down. 9 times 9 is 81. And oh, thank goodness, it turned out to be a 0, and there's nothing else to bring down. So we are done. 1.9. Now, if you wanted to check that, you could check that by doing 1.9 times 9. You can multiply that out really quick. Let's go ahead and do that. 81 9 times 1 is 9 plus what is 17. One number out there to the decimal. 17.1. Great. And if you wanted to do that with 0.9, you could do that also. So let's go back to the original problem. 17.27. No, that's good. If you want to check it, do that. And then if you have access to a calculator and you're allowed to check it, let me see if we can get this visible on the screen. You would punch in the inside number first. So I'm going to go back to our original problem. 1.71 divided by 0.9, and it's 1.9. Oops, there we go. There, correct answer. All right, so pause the video, try number 2 on your own, and then come on back to me and we can check it together. All right, hopefully you check that out on your own, number 2, so you can see how well you know this. Let's go ahead and rewrite this so it's set up like a division problem. That first number is going to go inside the house. So 0.009. Don't be afraid of all the zeros and the decimal points. You guys know what to do with it. Let me double check, make sure I copied it correct. 0.009 and 0.18. Excellent. So we've got a division problem with decimals. We've got decimals outside the house. We have to turn this into a whole number. How many places do we need to move it to make it into a whole number? To get the decimal behind the 8, we need to move it 2 places. So we do that inside the house as well. Move it over 2 places, and now it's a 0.9. I'm going to rewrite this again just because that's a lot of decimals and a lot of moving of things. So I have a 0.9 now, and then outside the house is an 18. Now in elementary school, you might be like, wait a second, 0.9 is less than 1, and I'm going to divide that by 18. I can't do that. It's got to be a larger number that you're dividing into. Not anymore. Middle school math, it's going to be a very, very small number, but you can do it. Just like taking almost one whole candy bar, 0.9, and dividing it in 18 pieces. Everybody's going to have some chocolate, but they're not going to have very much. So let's go ahead and do this. So this comes straight up there, and 18 don't go into 0, so we move on. 18 can't go into 9. So this is a little bit tricky. I didn't explain this before, but here's what you do. You put a 0 there. Got to have a place there for that, and then add a 0 afterwards. After that. So now we're doing 18 into 90, and so I'm going to take a guess. I don't know, 20. This is close to 20, goes into 105 times. So off to the side, I'm going to multiply 18 times 5. Oh my gosh. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 90. There's 9, so that's 90. We nailed it. 5 times 18 is 90. Turns out to be a 0. Nothing else to bring down. So that's our final answer. All right. Hopefully you did that and got it pretty close to right. Do the practice pages and your Alex topics, and you will get this skill down, I am sure.